So this one is actually going to be a recorded video. The last the last couple I've done have actually been lives, and I'm finding that the live videos are easy to do than recorded. I think it's because when I'm doing the live ones, I know I can't go back and fix things, and so I just roll with it, and it flows a little bit more, and I just treat it more like a conversation. So, but yeah, so far I've restarted this video 4 times. But anyway, just a little bit ago, my nephew had asked me what got me into solar, and I was like, oh, that's a great question. I should make a video on it. So I moved here from St. Louis back in March of 2022. So I left my job in law enforcement, moved here with my family. My wife's family is from here, so she kind of wanted to get home, and it was just a good move overall for our family. So my background has always just been law enforcement. So coming down here, I didn't want to go back into law enforcement. That was one of the reasons we left St. Louis to begin with. So I started looking at a lot of like online jobs, a lot of remote jobs, and I applied to a ton of them. But with COVID and everything, I guess there were so many people that were interested in working remote that those jobs were just super saturated with applications. Needless to say, I didn't get hired in any of those professions. So I was just on Indeed one day and saw an advertisement for a certain solar company that will go unnamed, and it was advertising what I consider a decent amount of money, and talking about uncapped commissions. So I'm like, it seemed a little spammy. So I did like the initial steps, but then I didn't kind of complete the application or whatever. A month rolled by, and Kristen actually was like, whatever happened to that one company? And I'm like, it seemed a little weird. And I'm like, at this time I didn't have a job so I'm like, what can it hurt? I'll finish my application or whatever, and then I'll take the next step. So I did. I finished everything. I got into the training, and I really just fell in love with it. Like, the technology, being able to help people while also making decent income, just everything about it just really mirrored my personality. You know, my personality is one where if I can help people while also providing for my family, that's the best industry for me. And you know, I really got to enjoy that in law enforcement. But law enforcement came at a certain amount of sacrifice, you know, like it's stressful for the family. It was stressful for me. And it's not something, especially nowadays, that as many people are retiring from. A lot of people are working much shorter period of time, transitioning to different agencies or going federal, whatever, because law enforcement is just not what it used to be, which is what it is, right? So got into solar, fell in love with it down here in Florida, and the first company I worked at, it was just super high stress, okay? So I made a transition eventually to power, you know, and in these videos, I try to wear my cool power t-shirts to represent. And well, anyway, power, the stress level just pretty much went away. Okay, the first company I was at, we were always, the people I was working with, we were always having our jobs threatened. You know, essentially, the managers would say stuff like, "Oh, if you won't go out there and do your work or whatever, McDonald's is hiring," which I felt was pretty demeaning, because most people in the office, they did work hard, and I was one of those people that really didn't need that type of talk, that level of motivation, that type of motivation, like. And it was just this constant atmosphere where your job is on the line, you know, where you know, you didn't know what would happen tomorrow. Oh, if you had like a no sale or whatever, like you got to get your boss on the phone while still in that person's house and it's not going well. You get your boss on the phone so that your boss can try and convince that person to go solar, because it was a one-sit close, right? And most of the time, when you get your boss on the phone, they accuse you of doing something wrong. You know, oftentimes they'd be cursing you out while you're on the phone right there in front of the customer. And I never put the boss or anything like that on speakerphone, but there would be so much yelling sometimes that you'd hear it through this phone. By you, I mean like the customer would hear it and they would just get turned off to the manager on the phone before the manager was even put on like speakerphone to try and talk to the customer. You know, it's just, it was a really bad look. And it just really turned a number of people off. And it was just awkward all around. You know, you're sitting in the house getting yelled at by your boss on the phone, and customer knows what's going on, and you're stressed because you don't want to encounter that, you know? So it was just kind of a breath of fresh air when I left my previous company. And to anybody who's in solar that is experiencing kind of what I described, that's just that pressure from management that, you know, you have to sell everything, or if you don't, it's your fault. That's no situation to live in, you know? Like, some people you're not going to sell, okay? Like, some people it's not for them today, or maybe they're just curious, which is fine. Like, but the high pressure, it'll just destroy you, you know? So power, I pretty much work for myself, I would say. So I have mentors over me that kind of guide me where I want to go, but it's all on me. You know, if I want to work all day tomorrow in figuring out kind of how to best get in front of different customers, the best avenues to kind of generate leads, I can do that. Or if tomorrow I don't want to do anything related to work, I can do that. You know, like, it's just different. And it's cool because it's very entrepreneurial, because no one's there to kind of tell you what to do or hold your hand, you know? Like, there's definitely support, but there's no micromanaging. And for me, the type of person I am, I'm pretty driven. I don't really need the micromanaging, so it's, for me, is, you know, a really good company to work with. So that's really how I got into solar, and that's ultimately how I got into power. And I'll do another video eventually on why power. So stay tuned. And what I want to do is I want to start leaving you guys with a nice dad joke related to solar. So I just looked this one up, and it's, why did solar go to school? Wait for it. To get brighter.